Hey everyone, Mozart here. This will be the start of part 2 of Five Nights at Freddy's The Next Generation fanfiction written by Pandas. This part is a little darker, and I think I should mention that there is some sensitive material, namely suicide, mentioned. It doesn't go into detail, but I thought I should have a warning just in case that's something you would rather avoid. Anyway, I think I've said enough. Let's get on with the show. My eyes opened slightly, being able to see a small amount of sunlight streaming through the partially opened curtains. My father, Foxy, was not here. I peeked out the Pirate Cove curtains and looked at the show stage. The 3 animatronics who were normally there were not. Could they have already been taken to the new location? When I opened my eyes fully, I was not in the new Pirate Cove, but in the backstage storage area with mascot heads and the other 3 new animatronics. A chicken, a bear, and a bunny. They were the children I watched get murdered. Murdered? I looked at my hands. I was no longer human. No, I had completely forgotten I had been killed by the child murderer that had found his next 4 victims. I stared at the ceiling, wondering how I missed being picked up by Foxy and being carried out of the room. Then I remembered. Once I asked Mom my favor, my world went black. The chicken started to stir. Her eyes opened and looked at me with pinkish-purplish eyes. She looked scared when she saw me, but stopped when she realized I was crying. She ran to my side to comfort me. "Are you okay?" she asked me politely. She was sweet like Chica, so I assumed she must be Senorita. "My name's Senorita. What's yours?" she asked again. I broke off. I couldn't tell her that my actual name is Rose, but I couldn't remember who I wanted to possess. I looked beside me, and I saw Foxtail. Then the memories came flooding back. "I'm Foxina. Nice to meet you, Spanish girl," I joked. She seemed insulted at first, but then laughed with me. The other 2 woke up, and I realized that I only saw 2 children go into the backstage room the last day I saw. "Okay. Now that we are all awake, who are we really? What are our soul names?" I asked everyone, and let go of the clutches of the metal body, and my soul flew into the air. The others seemed to understand and did the same. The chicken's soul was a little girl with blonde hair and green eyes. She also had a pair of jeans and a green top. She looked about 9 or 10. "My real name is Amber. I died in this very room." I saw her visibly crying, but made no sound. The bear's possessor is a boy around 10 or 11. "I'm Dante. I also died in this very room. I had followed Amber, and I was killed by that rotten murderer." The boy spoke in a clear and strong voice. The last one was hovering above the bunny's head. He looked vaguely familiar. Then I shot back to my human existence. It was no other than my best friend, Mike Smith. "My name is Mikey. I killed myself when my best friend died." "What is your name?" he asked me. I looked down. I was still wearing the same clothes as when I died. I could see the stab mark from my death. I could see the others' wounds as well. They were all in their chests. "My name is Rose. I died in the arms of my friend, Foxy. I was killed in this very room," I sighed, and that's when Mikey's spirit floated towards me and hugged me. "Rose, I didn't know you were possessing one of the new animatronics." I felt Mikey shudder in sadness and happiness. I hugged him back. "Hey, Mikey, I wanted to tell you, but this was something I wasn't sure if you would take well," I whispered in his ear. I didn't want to hurt him if I told him. I went back into my shiny animatronic body and took a deep breath. Human footsteps came to backstage, and I stood up. They only mumbled, but apart from that, they were silent. They lifted the other animatronics onto a flatbed they had carried from a truck. One of the workers lifted me up onto the flatbed with the others. I looked at the crew as they carried us to the truck. They all smiled at me. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think they're my friends. When we were safely put into the truck and it started to move, I looked around the truck, half expecting that Foxy, Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie were in the back. I didn't see them, but the others had looked quite comfortable. My vision started to straighten out as I was still half asleep, and their features started to become clearer. I was sitting by myself on the left wall of the truck, and the others were facing me. Senorita had yellow feathers and an orange beak. She looked similar to Chica, but much more childish and more kid-friendly. Benjamin had violet as his shiny color and light purple inside his ears. I looked over at Frank, but he somehow looked sad, or more so, discouraged. His hat and bow tie were both a light blue. He had light brown all over his body with a microphone in his right hand and his bow tie in the other. I went over to the massive window at the back of the truck and looked out at the scenery. Then I focused on my reflection. I didn't recognize myself at first, but then I remembered that I was no longer a little girl, but an animatronic female fox, Foxina. My metal was red rather than auburn, and my eyes were chocolate brown instead of green. I had a pair of black leggings underneath a light red skirt that fanned out around my waist, and with an orange sleeveless top with a white skull and crossbones imprinted on it. I felt something tickle the back of my neck. When I checked, I had a tail. All of it was red apart from one section, which was white. I looked at my hands, or should I say, hand. I only had one hand, as the other one was a hook, but it seemed detachable. I looked again at my reflection, and I had an eye patch over one of my eyes. When I lifted it up, I was still able to see, so it was probably just a pirate accessory. I turned back to the gang, but they seemed down. Ben was holding a magazine he had found on the floor. Frank and Senorita had huddled around the magazine too. It was a magazine about the new pizzeria. I was on the logo off to the side. All the others were there too, and so were our parents. But when I studied the logo closer, I was the only one with two animatronics of the same species of animal. I looked at the cartooned versions of the others to see if my eyes were playing tricks on me, but they weren't. I was the only one with two parents. I saw an article that was named Foxina Facts and read a bunch of dot points. Then I read the final one. Foxina is the only animatronic who has two parents, Foxy and Toy Foxy, who was uncovered by a man who recently lost his daughter, Rose. Were the others mad at me for what they had read? Were they jealous of me? Were they sad from how they only had one parent? "Are you guys mad at me for this?" I whispered, breaking the silence and pointing at the article. "What? No, we're not mad at you. We just read that last part and remembered that your soul's name is... Rose? Did your real father uncover Toy Foxy?" Frank asked. I frowned and turned around facing the window again and said angrily, "I don't want to talk about it. I never want to talk about it again." I then curled up into a ball and cried, and when I rubbed my cheeks I saw black. "That would be from the oil, dummy. You are a robot now." "Please stop crying," my little voice said, trying to cheer me up, but I just pushed it to the side of my thoughts. We arrived at the pizzeria in a few hours' time. The workers opened the front of the truck and the flatbed made a comeback. Before the workers could step into the truck, my friends and I went and sat on the flatbed ourselves. The workers' jaws dropped to the floor. The gang giggled and snorted, but I didn't make a sound. My feelings were so mixed up. I wasn't sure whether to be angry or sad or even happy. The workers stopped at the door, realizing that they had hit a problem. When they put the flatbed down to figure out how to solve it, we all jumped off the flatbed and we pushed the doors open. My eyes opened wide, almost falling off my endoskeleton. Everything, from the floor to the ceiling, was inviting. Bunting was hung around the walls, and each doorway was covered in glitter. We all entered into the dining area and show stage. Each table was parallel to the show stage and had party hats all laid out. Each chair had a star plastered to the back of it, either being gold or red. The show stage was beautiful. It had the colorful bunting from the entrance. It was also bright, and it had a sun and a couple of clouds from the previous location. We all looked next to the tables that were neatly set up to see our parents standing there. We all ran up, yelling their names. "Mom! Dad! I'm so glad that you're safe and sound!" I pulled out the magazine and handed it to them. They must have read the last Foxina fact as Mom clapped her hands over her mouth and Dad's eyes started to shine less. "Oh, my little girl, don't blame yourself for this mess. Hey, how about we go to Pirate's Cove?" Mom held my hand and walked me to Pirate Cove, which was still the same as the previous locations, with purple curtains imprinted with silver stars. I pulled back the curtain and saw several different areas, and some of them had doors. I went up to one that had a sign on it, that had green felt letters that read Foxina's room, and the hand-drawn picture of Foxy that he had given me when I first met him. My mind started to spin. I held the sides of my head and screamed, and Mom and Dad rushed to my side. The light started to flicker, and my world went black. I woke up with a start, my tail shaking with anxiety. What happened to me? And most importantly, where am I? I looked around the blue and purple room. There were fairy lights all around my bed, and bunting was hung around the walls. I took long, deep breaths, trying to stop myself from passing out again. My room looked very happy and calming. I looked at my bedside table. I had my eye patch and hook laying there. I looked at my hands again. I had 2 proper hands. I knew my hook was detachable. There was also an alarm clock that was red and the digital numbers were blue. Then I noticed a photograph of my parents together. Dad's arm was leaning on Mom's shoulder and they looked happy. I tried to walk when I got out of bed, but my legs were so shaky I couldn't walk. I collapsed on the floor and made a tremendous clatter. Dad ran into my room and picked me up and placed me back on my bed. "Lassie, what was up when ye were outside your room?" Dad wondered, worried, as he sat next to me. I tried to think, finding it hard to remember. Then I remembered the picture. "Dad, there was a picture on my door, and it was the same as the one you gave me when we first met. The one of you. It made me remember back when I was... Rose." Then I passed out. When I mentioned the name Rose, Dad's face dropped a little. He hugged me, and I felt all my worries and fears wash away. "Foxina, don't forget that if you want to talk about that or talk about your past, we can. Oh, and I almost forgot to give you this." Dad dived his hand into his pocket and took out a gold coin. He placed it in my hand, and I remembered when I first came to the pizzeria, but this time the world didn't spin. It stayed still, and I was almost too shocked to speak. When Dad left the room, I was strong enough to walk again. I saw a blue jewelry box, and when I opened it, I heard the same beautiful melody that used to play on my phone. I placed the coin in, and I realized that there was a note inside. I opened it carefully. It read, "Foxina, you are a special lassie who is brave, strong, and selfless. We want you to know that we are proud of you, and even though you are a bit stubborn, you are still our little girl. Love you till the end of the universe. Mom and Dad." My heart was pounding with warmth. I looked at my clock, and it was 10 o'clock. I immediately felt drowsy, and I sat on my bed and turned off my lamp. However, I couldn't sleep. I was excited, scared, and angry at the same time. I was excited for the opening of this place. Scared because I'm afraid that the kids won't like me, and angry because of what Frank had asked me back in the truck. I was so angry of what they had said that I felt a little guilty. I shouldn't have yelled at them. That was just me being stubborn. I can't believe I did that. I was such an idiot. Just then, my self-doubt turned into self-encouragement. "You are not an idiot. You are sweet and kind. You're just overreacting. You need to calm down. Frank was just inquisitive about it, that's all. Please, just look on the bright side." In the distance, I could hear some sort of circus music, and it was growing farther away, but it helped me fall asleep. I opened my eyes and found the smell of breakfast filling my nose. I sprung out of bed and yanked my door open. The smell grew stronger and stronger. When I reached the front of Pirate Cove, I saw Mom bent over the stove, cooking bacon and eggs. I looked around the house, but couldn't find Dad. "Hey, Mom, where did Dad go?" I asked Mom, who was so concentrated on cooking breakfast she didn't know I was there, and she jumped. "Oh, Foxina, you scared me. Your father is off doing some errands. He will be back in time for breakfast." While Mom was cooking breakfast, I went over to the teapot and poured myself a cup of tea, and went and sat down at the table. The newspaper was lying flat on the table. I looked at the front page. Seeing in big, bold letters, it read, "New pizzeria, opening in a week." I had 1 week to find out if this place had staff already, or if I could raid the kitchen with Chica and Senorita. Mom emptied out the bacon and eggs from the pan onto 3 different plates. Just at that moment, Dad opened the curtains and hugged Mom. "Good morning, my little adventurer. How are ye?" Dad asked me after he grabbed 2 plates of food, as he had taken off his hook and placed one in front of me and one in front of him. "Morning, Dad. I'm much better this morning. I did hear some strange sounds last night. Some sort of circus music, and at one point, even the power going out. Any idea of what those noises were?" I looked at Dad suspiciously, and I saw him turn red in embarrassment. No. No idea at all. You must be having strange dreams, my lassie. Maybe you hit your head when you fell on the floor last night," Dad said, his voice going higher and higher the more he lied. I giggled and left my chair to go make Dad a cup of coffee. Once I put in a few sugars, I brought down the mug and placed it in front of Dad, who was now reading the newspaper. "Foxina, my girl, the editors put in a poll from a local primary school of who they were most excited to meet. Look at this." Dad pointed to a bunch of colored bars with a bunch of names. I read the numbers at the end. Benjamin the Bunny, 29%. Foxina the Fox, 56%. Frank Fazbear, 32%. Senorita the Chicken, 12%. I had the highest in the polls, and 1 week's time a bunch of kids will be waiting outside Pirate Cove waiting for me to come out. That's nerve-wracking, even scary, so maybe I'll ask my friends if we should put together a first-time show. I ate my eggs and bacon as fast as I could, but not too fast. I finish up my tea and wave goodbye to Mom and Dad. Well, that's the end of the first half of part 2. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like this video, leave a comment, or maybe even subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye!